But my next guest is David Davis, former Brexit Secretary and Conservative MP, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning.
And now, I'm going to talk to you about vaccine passports. I'd love to get your reaction to the Dyson report and what Prince William has said, damning the BBC over their actions and saying that they'd contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia and isolation, that he let his mother down, his family down, and let the public down too. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm afraid I agree with every word of that. I think he's right. I think deception in journalism is a very bad thing. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, but not in something like this. And I think my sympathies are entirely with it.
Yeah, I mean, deception to expose wrongdoing, carefully set up by lawyers and things is one thing, isn't it? This is a very, very, very different matter.
This is deception to intrude. This is what this is.
Yeah, a very different thing. Let's talk about the issue of vaccine passports. You battled for many years against the introduction of ID cards as a fundamental imposition on our basic civil liberties and our relationship with the state. The idea is someone just demand your papers. There's been quite a move by the government to move towards vaccine passports, not just for people to go abroad to prove they've had 2 jabs, not have to go through PCR tests and quarantining when they arrive in another country, but also to bring them here in the UK in terms of just going about your normal daily business, going to a concert, going to the pub. It's been quite a fight back against them, one which I don't agree with. However, the discovery yesterday that the NHS app which people have been downloading to be able to go on holiday, has been vastly expanded to include a whole array of personal information, including ethnicity and criminal convictions and criminal accusations even against you, has really worried some people. What are your concerns?
Well, we start off with, let's just assume that there's nothing sinister about this. There's nothing covert. Let's assume that for a second. Even so, this worries me. I've argued from the beginning that the National Health Service and the Department of Health are amongst the world's worst in managing data and managing privacy. Over the course of the last 25 years, they've had a huge number of errors, huge number of mistakes, exposed and spent vast sums of money on futile computer systems that haven't done their job. And the problem about this one is that it's not just you that can access the database. If you create the portal, it allows hackers to access the database. So actually what this is doing is exposing all sorts of information about you, health information, which is the most sensitive, but as you say, even criminal allegations against you, are exposing it to being hacked into. So that's the first worry. And, when we defeated Tony Blair's idea for ID cards many years ago now, 80% of the public thought ID cards were a good idea at first. Sadly, there's people getting infatuated with new technology. It sounds like a good idea. And then one day, the government lost 2 CDs with all the tax records of about 25 million people and the addresses of their names and addresses of their children, all this sort of thing. And suddenly, in 3 weeks, the public went from being 80% in favour to 75% against, because they realised what risk it put them under. And the same is true with this thing. Even if you assume the government's being completely straightforward and completely honest about it, and we can come back to that in a second, it's risky. It's dangerous to put this sort of information into a public domain app. It will open up all our data to people intruding on it. Look, if the Pentagon can be hacked into, if Microsoft can be hacked into, the National Health Service is an easy hit.
Yeah, and bearing in mind, of course, 1 million employees, many of them will be entitled to hack into that information, will get access to that information. You mentioned the issue of whether or not the government is being straightforward and honest. The government has repeatedly told us on camera there will not be a vaccine passport to go about your business in the UK. Again and again and again, we've been told that, and yet they've attempted to bring them in for these mass events. We know they want to expand them. Then they wanted to bring them in for pubs and restaurants. Big backlash against that. Still not completely taken off the cards. Then we were told, no, don't worry. If you have the NHS app, it's fine. That's just for your vaccine proof. So when you go abroad, that's all it is. And people like me will be. I was about to download it, and then I thought, well, hold on a minute. As soon as I saw this, I'd rather have a paper copy, frankly. Adding in things like your mental health, your lifestyle, your family, your ethnic origin, biometric data, and alleged and proven criminal behaviour. That is not the government being straightforward and honest, is it?
And to be frank, I think some of the ministers themselves wouldn't have known. One or two of the ministers who said we have no intention of going down this route, and this raises, and I quote, serious constitutional and philosophical questions, quoting a minister from last year. At the same time that minister was saying that, the government was introducing contracts for people to think. So plainly, something has not been straightforward here. I think one of the difficulties is that Whitehall has long had this infatuation with what they call identity management. They think they can solve all sorts of problems if they can just get at everybody's information. Well, I'm sorry, that does massively change the relationship between the state and the individual. It turns it from them being our servants to almost the other way around.
And indeed, not just the state demanding this to see this out, but anyone in any private business being allowed to just say, well, you need to prove things to me right now.
Once you created the precedent, and then your next employer will ask to see it, and that sort of thing. References. It'll go along with references. All these sorts of insurance companies will start to ask. So you've got all that, but then you look across the sweep away from just this ID card. At the moment, we've got a policing bill going through the House of Commons, and the policing bill has in it a requirement on all local agencies, including health authorities, to cooperate with them and provide data about anybody there, so not criminals, about anybody, in order to help, quotes, prevent violent crime. You really are back in Minority Report territory.
We really are. It's all very alarming. We're going to have to leave it here. We're way over time, but I wanted to have a proper chat with you. Former Brexit Secretary and Conservative MP David Davis, thank you so much for joining us. It's coming